Hey, Lewis.
Hey, Roma.
So, you know how I've been really bad at watching movies my whole life?
Well, yeah, you're not really a cinephile.
No, I just can't sit still for that long. But you know what I wish I was able to see?
What? What do you wish you can see?
Well, back in 2006, this movie came out and it looked pretty good. I think it's called Eragon.
Ah,
Did you see that movie?
what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna use the one true name and then just erase that memory from existence. And within 5 seconds, you'll forget that we were even talking about this.
What?
What? This trailer made me so so upset with so many things that they did wrong, and that was just from a trailer.
But it looked like such a great movie.
I was so excited as a kid. You know what? As a kid, that will stay as a landmark for one of those movies that really inspired like fantasy love as I was growing up. But just knowing how the book series actually fucking goes, and just seeing that trailer again and reminded of all the inaccuracies they have of completely scrubbing away other fantasy races and just making them people, and just the magic system being fucked up. It's
Does it upset you? Does it make you angry?
Yes, I'm retroactively angry.
Were you actually casting a spell on me to forget, or is that just a bit? Was that a thing that happens?
We'll get to that.
All right. Hello and welcome to the Hyperfixation, where my friends come onto our show and tell us about things that excite them for 30 to 45 minutes or more, depending on how feisty we feel that day. My name is Roma. I use the they and them pronouns because my gender is in the trash can. And today I'm joined by Lois.
Hello! I am the other one of the other hosts on this show, but today I am a guest, I guess.
You're the guest hostess with the mostest.
I am guest host slash guest co-host today.
Yeah. You're asking your own questions.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask my own questions. Hey, Lewis, what's your pronouns? I use the he, they pronouns. Hey, Lewis, what are we talking about? Eragon.
Eragon.
God.
So, obviously, long-term listeners know Lewis from season 1 and season 2. And from, if you're a longest time listener from Hearts Against Balance, a new listener is going to be like, the hell is that? That's your own journey. I'm going to let you find that out on your own.
Go over there. Listen to my other podcast. Cringe at earlier episodes. Cringe at later episodes, but not for audio reasons.
Get emotional damage.
Get emotional damage. Get love in your heart.
Yes, Lewis, we live together. And so the cool thing about living with you is that I get to get an info dump whenever I damn well please, or whenever you damn well please.
Mm-hmm.
But I love that I finally get to kind of wrangle you into your office desk in front of a microphone to do it in a podcast format. Because am I allowed to mention what you were going to talk about before?
Sure. I'll still probably do it at a later time. Maybe just with another host.
Well, this gives listeners an opportunity to harass the shit out of you to talk about the Cthulhu mythos. But we were going to talk about the Cthulhu mythos, but then Eragon entered your life again. And you've been hardcore reading / listening to that. And so I've been sitting there, I'm like, I want to know, because I don't know jack shit about Eragon. I know nothing. I know there's a dragon and there's some Troy Bolton looking ass dude in the movie, and that's it.
He is kind of like a fantasy version of Troy Bolton.
Does he sing and dance? Please tell me he sings and dances.
No.
Damn it!
Maybe in another movie he does. I can totally see him doing that, though.
We get a GoFundMe for Eragon the movie. That's correct, but it's a musical. And it's Zac Efron.
Why can't it just be me? This time I'm going to be in the musical, and then I'll sing about the timeline of Eragon. And if we have to gloss over anything for, movie time reasons, we'll put it in the song so it's not just cut out of the movie, making it an overall worse experience for people.
True. I'm trying to think. My brain immediately went, I'm pretty sure they cut whole songs out of movies too. But, I mean, if it's a banger enough, they couldn't.
Well, it's not as much as, like, cutting songs out, but cutting plot points out or important details out. That's a big issue when it comes to movie releases of book mediums or game mediums, whatever they may be. When it makes the jump to a movie medium, so much stuff is going to get left on the cutting room floor. But the important thing is to remember what is critical to the storyline, and if you're planning on making it a series, knowing what's going to affect later storylines if you cut it or not.
Yeah. Like I've mentioned before with, like, I'm not really a movie person. Like, I like shows and I just can't sit still for long periods of time. My attention span is very small. And that's why I'm on TikTok all the time. But this reminds me of the very few times where with Chainsaw Man, well, not few times, but during Chainsaw Man's release, I'm sitting there with like my red strings across the wall of like, they cut the whole scene out with the muscle devil. Why would they do that? That completely changes how they perceive Makima in the earlier episodes. So I was like, actually, yeah, I now understand this emotion just on a different level. But this movie came out when we were very young.
Mm-hmm. You said 2000.
How old were we?
What? Wait, 2006?
6.
I was 11.
I was
10 or 11.
10. Yeah. I remember it coming out, and I remember it being a big deal. I actively remember not being able to see it in theaters and then forgetting it existed entirely.
Yeah, I definitely did watch this movie, and I loved the shit out of it as a kid because, one, I didn't know the book series, and two, I didn't know what good storytelling looked like.
You're a baby.
I was just a wee lad. This definitely was a cornerstone of my love for fantasy mediums and just the escapism that comes with enjoying just a fantasy genre.
Yeah. So you watched the movie first.
Yes.
In 2006-ish.
Yeah.
When did you begin to read the series?
A month ago.
I was under the impression that this was a reread. I didn't realize this was a first-time read.
No, it was 100% a first-time read.
Hey, yo. So, okay, because from the previous times we've talked about book series on the show, I mean, like with the Cosmere, Jakey had been reading that for like ever. And then with Animorphs, Jakey, it was a reread. And with you with The Land, did you reread The Land or did you just read through it once?
When I came on the show to talk about The Land, I listened to the books again, as I'm a big Audible person. And for that time, it was probably my 8th or 9th listen through the series.
Wow!
Yeah, The Land was one of those big fantasy things for my adult life.
And so you went from I know nothing about this genre and now I love it to now I'm a connoisseur, as what's the wine tasters?
Hipster.
You're I fucking don't know what the word is. Starts with an S. But you're one of them fancy licensed wine testers of fantasy series now, and you're looking back on this movie like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
How could you?
As I started this journey of the Eragon series, which the channel in the Discord will be labeled as Eragon because that's what people know it as. The book series itself is called The Inheritance Cycle. So when I started my journey with the Inheritance Cycle, I started talking to Tony, your partner, and Tony was a fan of it and got through, I think, the whole series when the movie came out and was disappointed from the get-go. So when I told him that I was going to be starting the book series, he got really excited. I started listening to Eragon and was immediately like really off the deep end of like, hell yeah, I love this, but simultaneously getting more and more retroactively pissed off about this movie. From what I remembered, I'm like, oh my god, they dropped the ball harder than any book series that I know of that was pushed to that medium.
I have to know more. Hold on, where's the timer? Hold on. I don't think I have any other previous questions. I think I just want to hear what the fuck they fucked up at this point. Are we doing a 1-to-1 comparison as we go along, like with book one, or are you just gonna? How do you want to approach this?
I think from what I want to do is try to get as much of the actual story as a series in there, but as the beginning part, I will be comparing it to the Eragon movie, and from what I remember and their huge shortcomings, it can be boiled down, but it can also be expanded upon.
Cool. Okay, well, I got the timer. I'm gonna press the button, and I'm gonna let you go hard. Does that sound like a plan?
I guess so. I hope so.
Do you really, really, really go hard? In 3, 2, 1. Nice.
Sorry, that was a nervous burp. These.
No, leave it.
All right. All right. So both the book and the movie start off in like the same start zone. So it's just some lanky little like late teens. I think he's 18 at the beginning of the story. A guy in the woods, and he's hunting a deer, and they cut over to some woman getting chased by some people, and they're holding some mysterious glowing rock, and then they say some spell or some shit, and then that glowing rock appears next to the 20-year-old person, 18-year-old person, which is Eragon. So those points, those are pretty good. I will say from the get-go, they fuck up because they have the person who's getting chased is Arya from both of them, but you notice in the movie immediately that she is not an elf, which she is very, very blatantly an elf. They expound on that, and that might not be as much of a big deal for the movie right now, but as time goes on, you learn more about the species and how they are a creature of magic. They are not just people who know magic, they are just living embodiments of magic. And that's very key for later story shit.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just this that they fuck up in the movie. They take away any species that is not human. If it's humanoid, it's just human. So there's no dwarves, there's no elves, there's no Urgles, which is essentially just like orcs. It's all just humans.
That sounds like a budget issue. I'm just making a bit. I don't think it's actually. Wait, actually, do you think we should? You know what? Keep going.
It does sound like a budgeting issue if the movie didn't get $100 million budget.
Yeah, they didn't they get like 250
Yes. In
like
theaters, they
mil.
got 250 million. So it was a net gain, but overall, fans were so disappointed. Moviegoers were just so disappointed. You said it's a 16 on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
It's not good. So regardless, that's our opening scene. We have Eragon. He's got this glowing rock. It's a dragon egg.
Dragon egg.
I'm just gonna more closely follow the book, and then I'll just complain about the movie as I remember shit. Aragon takes that egg back home. He's like, cool glowing rock. I don't have any food that I was trying to hunt for. I'm a poor farmer, but this glowing rock looks important. I could probably sell this and have good money for my family. He takes it home. He goes to show his uncle. His uncle's like, cool. He lives with his uncle who has raised him. He was abandoned by his mom the day he was born. Like, his mom left the village years ago, and then one day she just came back pregnant as shit to her brother's house and was like, hello, Garo. I'm gonna stay here for a little bit. She poops out a baby and then immediately leaves and never comes back.
Bruh.
Yeah. So Aragon got raised by his uncle and aunt with his, I think, 2 years older cousin, who essentially is his brother. The aunt has died. That doesn't really matter. So he lives with his family. His uncle's like, cool, we can use this money. He tries to take it into town to show the blacksmith. No, not the blacksmith. The butcher. So he's like, hey, butcher man, I'll trade you this expensive ass looking rock that you can definitely get more money for if you give me a bunch of food. And the butcher said,
Hey.
I'll think about it. Where'd you get it from? And he's like, hey, I got it from those suspicious mountains back there. Butcher says, get the fuck out. He doesn't want anything to do with that suspicious ass mountain. Regardless, we move on past the scene. He goes back home. His uncle's like, just wait for essentially the nomads to come by. They're like, if you're a fan of Skyrim, the Khajiit of the world, where they're just traveling merchants that come throughout the land with their wares, sell their goods. They're just like a merchant guild sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So he's like, just wait for them to come. We will sell the egg then. He tries to do that. The merchant says, I would, and I could probably get a fuck ton of money for this, but this is such a niche thing, and I don't think it's really worth me buying because it's going to take forever for it to even happen. So he's despondent, he's upset, he takes that shit home. Actually, before he takes it home, he listens to the storyteller of their village tell stories about dragon riders. Storyteller's name is Brahm, and he's telling all these extravagant tales. Riders are people who have bonded with dragons. It's not just anyone can become not everyone is just a rider. They have to physically bond with a dragon for them to be considered a rider. And
I feel like, oh, I don't mean to interrupt you. This just gives me the same energy of like, not everybody can be a cat person. Like,
definitely. Not everyone can be a dragon person. It's just a niche thing. They're going to scratch up your furniture. They're going to scorch your walls. It's just a pain in the ass.
You know, but the barbecues are insane, dude. Honestly.
The top tier. Everything's smoked. It's beautiful. Sometimes it gets a little charred, but that's all right. It's about the experience. It's like going to a hibachi grill where things are kind of like overcooked. It's more about the experience rather than the...
Yeah. And I mean, I don't have to pay for flights anymore. I'm 9 out of 10 TSA agents hate me.
That's true, but you'll definitely need a saddle for it, because if you try to ride a dragon without one, they're hard as knife scales will definitely rub the flesh off of your legs, like Eragon finds out.
Oh?
Yeah. So, Eragon listens to Brom's story about the Dragon Riders, which they're not supposed to talk about because the evil king Galbatorix and his evil dragon saying, hey, no talk about the riders or I'll fucking kill you. So he talks about the Dragon Riders. And specifically how Galbatorix turned on them and was the one that killed all the riders, and that's why there's no dragons or riders today, because they're all dead because of him.
Sorry about it.
That part's kind of a 1-for-1 for the movie.
Yeah.
They cut all that in between shit, though. It was kind of just like Eragon has egg, he goes to town. Without the egg, listens to story.
Egg.
That's the comparison there. Doesn't matter. Egg hatches, it's a baby dragon. Egg.
Sorry.
The egg hatches, baby dragon, he feeds it what pieces of meat it can. When the egg hatches, he gets a mark on his hand that has marked him. This was the mark of a dragon rider. He has
driver's license.
Yeah, it's his driver's license. Baby dragon, no bigger than a big cat. He's like, oh fuck, gotta take that outside. If my family finds out about it, they're gonna be upset because they're gonna want us to turn it into the king because they don't want no trouble. So I'm gonna hide it from my family in the forest next door farm.
I've done that.
Yeah, you know, when you find a lost kitten or puppy, you keep it outside your house so your parents don't see it and you get in trouble.
Oh, dude. I've had some cats return doing that stuff.
Yeah. Well, luckily for Eragon, there's no place to take his dragon back to, just taken away or his family murdered by the king for having one or whatever.
Yikes.
So this is where it's a similar concept of what happens. The spirit's the same, but just the execution is completely different of how they choose to separate Eragon from his quiet life at home. In the book, he goes back into town for some shit, and he runs into like these two shady looking guys that immediately fill him with the sense of wrongness. And they smell like rotting flesh or whatever, and he runs into just Brom, who's like, hey man, what are you doing? And then the like two shady guys kind of just leave him alone, and he's like, what are you doing out here? That's crazy. Oh, it's best.
Sussy bacas.
These are some sussy ass fucks. So he does that. He starts going home because immense sense of dread and pain and whatever. It doesn't matter. And Saphira is more grown at this point. We're just gonna skip over all that small shit. Regardless, as he arrives more towards his house, he goes to Saphira. In the book, his village just gets attacked, and he starts running home to make sure his family's okay. It gets the premise across, but again, they're just cutting off a huge piece of the book series where these two shady guys are essentially monsters, and they're a huge driving force of what's going on. So when he gets to Saphira in the movie, he starts running home, and Saphira just kind of picks him up and takes him out of there. He's like, what are you doing? I gotta go make sure my uncle's okay. And Saphira's like, nah, we can't do that. You're in danger. Big danger, Eragon. He's like, nah, fuck you. Send me back. So he essentially just goes back, and his uncle's dead. And he's like, aw, man, dragon, why you do this? I could have saved him. Like,
my bad.
Whoopsie doopsie. And then Brom shows up and is like, hey, it's time to go. Blue Skidoo, let's go. You're in danger here. So the storyteller takes him on an adventure. In the book, there's more drama to that. He starts heading home, and he wants to make sure that Saphira is safe. Saphira's the dragon. He's like, hey, Saphira, I need to check on you. Like, there's some shit going on. And he sits comfortably on her back like he always does, like right below her neck. And she takes flight, and he's like, what the fuck are you doing? He's like, you're in super duper danger, and we can't be here. Her animalistic urges send her out of there. And she rides for like a day without stopping, just goes deep into the mountains as he's like trying to argue with her and she just won't listen. And when he gets off of her by the end of the day, he's like, man, what's this wetness down on me? And when I'm reading this part, I'm like, oh man, he pissed himself from all the adrenaline and
No,
fear.
no.
But no, he looks down and it's blood. The scales of Saphira have rubbed through his clothing and the most extreme of chafing.
Hate to hear it.
Yeah. I will say, this book, Eragon, when it started getting written, it was by a 15-year-old. So, if you read this book and you think this could have been written better, well, yeah, it was written by a 15, 16-year-old.
It's an audio format, so you can't see my like stare with the blinks of like Ayo. Just a Renaissance child, I guess.
Yeah. I'm gonna start moving a little bit quicker. Braun takes Eragon on an adventure. He runs away from the town. He's like, hey, we need to get out of here. Those creatures, they're called Razak. They will be coming back, and the best thing you can do to keep your dragon out of the hands of the king is if you leave, your family will be safe. So he leaves.
Okay.
He gets out of there. His uncle's dead. His cousin went away to do some work. In the movie, he just went to go like work for a smith in the next town or something. In the movie, he went to go join the soldiers.
Mm-hmm.
I could see what they were trying to do because later in the book series, the cousin Roran actually becomes a very formidable warrior. Like, he's renowned throughout the kingdom for his battle prowess later.
Oh.
But it was never what he wanted. It was just, he was a victim of circumstance. And I think that the character of Roran suffers from, like, him joining soldiers in the movie because he wants to fight compared to someone who just wants to protect what they love and just doing whatever it takes to do that.
How? You said the author was 15, 16 when they wrote this?
When they started to write this, they were 15 years old. I don't know when they finished it, but yes.
Okay. Because now I'm sitting here looking at this logistically of like, okay, so let's say they were like, you know what? Let's just say they were like 18 when they finished it for just this. I don't know how old they were. But if it released in 2004, and then
he was, I think, 17 when it finished. When he finished writing it, because the interview that he had that I listened to, it was with his editor, and his editor was the one who really pushed for her company to pick him up as a client. And she recalled having to get his parents to sign a form because he was still a minor.
Yeah. Like, can you imagine being like barely 20 and like you've just been swept off your feet from this fun little dragon book that you were writing? Like, I don't think you're going to be able to bully any of those directors or producers or writers into doing the right thing.
Dude, yeah. I think the silver lining with this is that from what I've read online, is that Disney has picked up Eragon for Disney Plus to make a series out of it, and one of the co-writers is the author of the book.
Oh, good.
So, however you feel about Disney Plus, or Disney doing whatever the fuck they're doing, I am a big proponent of the author having a hand in their work when it gets adapted into something else.
Yeah, I hope that they stay involved. I'm looking at you, Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Yeah. Netflix edition. That's a whole other bag of worms.
That's a whole other bag of worms. But yeah, so I'm not educated enough to speak on the Disney Plus thing. But yes, I'm glad that at least that the author gets to stick around for making it happen as an adult. Round 2, let's fight. Give us our elves.
Give us our fucking elves. Give me the fantasy part of fantasy. I don't just want people with dragons. I want the whole shebang. With that, I think my mind has changed. I don't want to go one for one with the movie anymore. I don't want to just follow Eragon anymore. I just want to go about the parts that I loved and stuff that really stuck out in the series.
Absolutely, go for it.
During this journey, in the books, he is training with Braum, and there's always this it alludes to him knowing more than he lets off on. And he talks about getting to the Varden, which is the world's the continent's like rebel faction. They're called the Varden. And he's like, all right, we're gonna get over there and blah blah blah. So it's like, oh, so he has connections with the Varden. And he knows a lot about dragons. How is this possible? Where Galbatorix has been in charge for 100 years, and he's essentially banned talking about it. Like, how is this happening? I'm gonna spoil it now.
Go for it.
Bronn is a rider. Well, was a rider. His dragon was killed. Dun dun dun.
No, not the baby.
There's a lot to unpack with just Bronn alone. Bronn was there when the riders fell 100 years ago. When you bond with a dragon and become a rider, your life expectancy is essentially expanded for like hundreds of years. Or if you are an elf, you can live as long as you don't get sick or get something fatally injured with you.
That is maybe she's born with it. Maybe it's Dragon Rider elves.
Yeah, I don't like that joke. I'm sorry, it didn't land.
I was reaching. I was on my tippy toes.
It was a little bit of a stretch, like this movie tried to do. But you know, there's a lot to come with this, and I'm going to spoil some stuff from throughout the book series with just Braum right here. When Eragon's naming Saphira, he's talking to Bronn, and he's like, "Hey, what's some like dragon names? Like, what's some famous ones?" And Bronn's like, "Oh yeah, there was a lot of big ones, like this one and that one and this one and oh and that one." And then like kind of dejectedly and like under his breath, he's like, "Saphira." And Eragon's like, "Oh, okay." So when he's naming Saphira, he's like talking to her, and she can only talk into his mind. And he's like, "How about this name?" And she's like, "Eh." "How about that one?" And they go through all, and he's like, "Ooh, what about Saphira?" And she's like, "Yeah, that one." So she picks the name, and we find out later that Bronn's dragon that died, its name was Saphira. And that's why he said it with such sadness and sorrow, is because his dragon was also a blue dragon like Saphira, named Saphira. So he essentially took this guy's dragon's name.
Oh, no, the baby.
In the book, he's like, "Oh man, of course fate does this to me." More spoilers, bigger spoilers. We later find out that Bronn is actually Eragon's father. So he takes his dad's dragon's name without realizing it. So he's traveling with this guy for months, and he saw him as a father figure. And we don't find out till book 3 that is his dad.
You're my dad.
Boogie,
Boogie, woogie, woogie.
Long after he's dead.
Oh, no!
Bronn dies in the middle of book in Eragon, the first book. And we don't find out until towards the end of book 3 that's his dad.
That was my dad. Boogie, woogie.
Originally, we don't know shit, and there's a lot of stuff about lineage and stuff that goes on with this. Book 2, we find out that a traveling companion of his after Bronn dies, his name is Murtagh, is his brother. It's his half brother. That his mom had a kid before him with one of the king's like fucked up riders. Like he corrupted some dragon riders before killing the rest of them. And his brother is the son of the first one and the most powerful one. So all of book 2, they essentially have you thinking like, oh, Eragon is the son of one of those guys because his brother's like, and you're the son of that guy because our moms are the same person. Bet you didn't fucking realize that, stupid. His brother's name is Murtag. Tony and I just referred to him as Sasuke because that's essentially what he's an edgelord that is mad at the world because he had it rough, and justifiably, like he has the right to be mad at the world, but he's just so fucking edgy. He's a real tryhard.
I love to hear it. We all love our Sasuke's.
We love our Sasuke so damn much.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot to go with the series. One of the big things with this series, which is going to be was my biggest point that I wanted to focus on when talking to you, was the magic system is explained in such an intricate way that it is probably the most interesting way I've heard magic tried to be described in a series. Essentially, everything has a true name.
Okay.
From an ancient language. And if you know the true name of something, you can use it as magic. So if you know the real name of fire, which is Brazinga in the ancient tongue, then you can like cast fire.
Brazinga.
Yeah. Every time I hear it, I think of someone saying Bazinga, and then that's Big Bang Theory, and but it's such an intricate way. So it's not just you stumble across magic. You have to, 1, have an aptitude for it, and 2, know a completely different language and all the ways and intricacies of a different language. You got to know how the proper sentence structured for the spells to be strung along, and past tenses of stuff if you want to do something correctly. Because if you word it slightly wrong and say it in the past tense instead of forward tense, you can, for an example, accidentally curse a newborn baby instead of putting a blessing on it, Eragon.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, you know, the whole thing about wizards in D&D having to like study their spells, that makes a lot more sense now thinking about it this way. I thought it was just kind of like a gut reaction. This is what I want, and then boom, touch the forehead. You're blessed now. No, that's not it. There's rules and regulations to this.
Yeah. Part of those rules and regulations, besides just knowing an ancient language, which is jealously guarded like most wizard stuff is not truly knowing what your magic well is. They just call it energy, but it's essentially your life force. And if you try to do something too complicated or do a fireball too big or what have you, and your energy capability is not enough, you will just drop dead. And
stop.
There is no gauge for that. You just have to personally know your limits. You start to feel lethargic if it's like, let's say you're casting a small fire, just continuously. You'll start to feel very drained and tired, and that you need to eat something, and that's just how the magic system works. But if you try to do something huge, you can just drop dead without even realizing it.
I am sweating because I'm the kind of person who will like forget to do the thing that I need to do to take care of my well-being until I fall asleep very quickly. So I'm sitting here, I'm like, maybe it's a good thing I'm not an Eragon wizard, huh?
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And Eragon has almost fallen victim to this a few times because he'll set up a spell or like a weave to actively be going. And there has been, I think, 2 instances of in the series where he either like he gets knocked unconscious and he has to be like stirred by someone around him to be like, cut off the spell, you're gonna kill yourself.
Uh,
Later he finds a way, he gets taught a way to like essentially use the energy of the beings around him. So he's doing this with a fight with his brother, because Sasuke. He's doing a fight with his brother on his brother's dragon, and he's getting help from the elves, and he gets knocked unconscious from like Saphir crashing into the ground, and he gets awoken by one of the elves and is like, please cut off the spell. You're gonna kill us. 3 of the other elves have already passed out. And he was just knocked unconscious and definitely has a concussion. So it's like the words coming in and out, screaming down a hallway sort of situation. So he's like, what? What's going on?
oh no.
The magic system's so intricate, and I love it so fucking much for that.
I love that. Okay, because like to do a callback to the Cosmere, I don't know if you ever got a chance to read Mistborn.
Mm-mm.
In that magic system, it's pretty much you drink for certain kinds of people, you either like drink metal flakes, and you have to make sure they're like correct, like the right metal flakes. You can't just like take any chunks of aluminum and eat it. Like it's got to be correct and edible, or you could still get poisoned. But also there's some people who will instead use like they'll wear the correct metal bands or rings or something to store stuff in. But you know, and I liked that magic system for being intricate and like having a reasonable limitations on their abilities of like, okay, like I have until all of the steel in my stomach has been burned off, and you can kind of get like a gauge of like, okay, like this power source feels like it's wearing down and I don't have a re-up, so you know you got to be strategic about it. But this one straight up is just like, good luck, bitch.
It really is.
Good luck.
It's a very rare skill for people to have in the first place, let alone just finding a tutor to teach you in any part of the way. And even if you have a tutor and the ability, you might not even have the energy to cast anything more than a small mending spell. So I don't know, I think it's a part of me that just wants to know why and how things work, and how most series I listen to don't even try to explain how magic works. With this, at least they tried to make us a sense of reality to it.
Yeah. And it like there's extra levels of danger to it,
Mm-hmm.
because it's not just you, it's others, which that could play into some really fun plot, well, quote unquote fun plot options of hey, the enemy knows, maybe the enemy has figured out that's what you're doing and sees everybody's getting really fucking tired on that end and is like, let's knock out the guy who's not really good at turning off his spells. Like there's so much caution to it. Oh,
Mm-hmm. And that
that's
is
good stuff.
definitely a like a normal thing across most fantasy, of like aim for the spellcaster, because they're usually the most dangerous. But in this, it's definitely, even as non-writer spellcasters, they are forced to be reckoned with. Like, they can put wards around troops of soldiers on their part, so it makes arrows that would hit them like skew to the side, so it won't actually hit any of their comrades. And that's just like, it makes for very intricate battle scenes, which most battle scenes in books I find extremely boring, and I kind of tune out. It's like, yeah, big battle, whatever, I don't really care. with Eragon and just the inheritance cycle as a whole, the battle scenes are always explained in a way that I didn't tune out, and I was just curious of what was happening, especially when we were following his cousin Rorin in book 2 and onwards. We follow just a normal ass person's point of view of having to deal with enemy soldiers and like wizards and shit.
The wizards.
And wizards.
So there's I'm absorbing all of these qualities of the story you like. And obviously we've heard the qualities of the story in the movie format that you didn't like. But is there anything about the book specifically that you could, if you could change, that you would change? Does that make sense? Am I making any sense?
Yeah. Well, honestly, for the first book, since I knew before even getting into it that the author was so young, a lot of things I did just like let just fall off. It's like, all right, well, he was a young writer at the time and he wasn't as experienced. So there's probably stuff in there from the first book. I can't pinpoint anything because his writing did get better. A big issue that I'm having with this is, again, I started this journey a month ago, and that wasn't from lack of trying. This motherfucker just makes really long books. We'll use Audible as a frame of reference. Most books on Audible that I listen to are anywhere from like 8 to 12 hours, give or take. First book is 16 hours. The second book is 23 hours. The third book is 29 hours. And the fourth book is 31 hours. It took me
that hurt me.
Entire work weeks and some of my weekend just to like try to listen to everything. So as much as I've internalized a lot of the story elements and remember all of it, just shortcomings don't really come along from the writing aspect from book 1. I will say things that I would change would probably be the ending. And
okay,
you know when you can watch, listen, read, or just take any sort of information and then get to the end of it and be like, oh, they rushed it there at the end.
Yeah.
That's definitely what the end feels like, where I knew this is where everything was going in the end of the series. You can tell throughout all of the books, everything has been breadcrumbs leading to this thing. And as well as certain things were written very well at the end, that wasn't said very eloquently, but whatever. He even talks about it in the interview after the fourth book as well, of like being on a time crunch that he had, of how much he enjoyed it, but him still being on a time crunch. It really shows. And it left me wanting more, where you know that the story was about Eragon getting to the end of this journey with defeating the king. And that's where the book kind of ends. But there's so much more that they could have done. And even outside of that, every good book series will leave a world where you can just imagine what happens next, at least in my opinion. Some people want it completely wrapped up with no loose ends. But in this case, they left such a huge hole for me personally, of like the dragon eggs that they found and how to rebuild the riders, that I just wanted that little bit of extra. Even if they did like a Boruto, end of Naruto-esque chapter or two of shows what happens in the future, that would have helped. But I think the ending of the series is what I would change.
Okay.
Sorry if that was a little rambly.
No. That made complete sense, especially like I haven't been much of a writer in my life, and I know I'm not very good at it. And not in the sense that this is something I dedicate myself to, and I don't feel like I'm good. I'm just not a good writer. I don't put enough effort into it. But that is something I think about a lot for like our actual play, or for like the comics that I'm trying to write with Tony.
Mm-hmm.
Just like what makes a good ending. And I can definitely feel the difference of being able to just sit and mull it over and like really consider all the possibilities. And then there's somebody who's my age or younger who's on a corporate time crunch who's just like, you're just gonna have to deal with this one, bud.
Yeah, it's a little disappointing. It happens, but you know, there are ways to eloquently, even on that time crunch, make it feel like a satisfying ending. And this is not a toot my own horn thing at all, but the an example I have is from the first season of Hearts Against Balance, where our time crunch was Lisa, my fiance, was about to give birth to our baby, and we had to finish up the season because Lisa made it clear that after the baby was born, she didn't want to be a part of the show anymore. So we clearly was like, all right, now we're going to Endgame. We had a little bit more, but we're just going to jump to Endgame. But we still were able to wrap up loose ends from that season and made it feel very worth it and had a payoff to it. And other mediums have done that as well. It's just executing it properly. People can look over a rushed ending as long as it feels satisfying and earned.
Yeah. At least I agree. As someone who I don't normally take magnifying glasses to storylines unless it's Chainsaw Man. I think that's the only time I'll put it under a microscope.
Mm-hmm.
But I think as long as there's just, some semblance of attempts to tie up most of the loose ends, I'm like, I'm happy with that.
I apologize if I sound like a fucking elitist also.
No, you have this fresh on the noggin. This was a beginning point for you for your journey to this point with fantasy content. Like, it's very important to you and you're looking at it critically. That's totally valid. I think if you were just shitting on the author outright, that would be bad.
Mm-hmm.
But, we're considering the whole situation and, what would we do about it?
And I think, I come across sometimes as someone who's like overly critical of things, like story writing stuff. It's just, as a listener, I want the experience to feel like it has intent, and I will poke holes where I can, just because that's just how my brain works, of like seeing the holes and issues and pointing them out, which has helped me with my own writing process and helping with other people's story building stuff, like Tony with our GM building stuff, or just critically looking at the merits of a book series such as this. I don't know. It's just, it's nice to take something that is very unserious, like just a book, and look at it critically.
Yes. Absolutely.
There's a lot of life lessons that I've taken from this book series, even now getting into it at 27 years old. It was just, this book will definitely last with me for probably the rest of my life, just because this has been one of the few books that it's obvious how most of the points that they went throughout the series were planned from the first book. And anything that they thought of, they built up to it. It wasn't just thrown haphazardly at the end.
I have to apologize to you. That last 10 seconds, I heard half of it because I was thinking about what I was going to do to you for the TikTok for this episode.
You motherfucker.
So it's not that I am interested in what you have to say. But for some reason my brain was like, but what if you did this? And I can't tell you yet, and the listeners can't know either. They'll know when this episode comes out. But you don't. Not in this time and day, as of March 7th at 10:16 p.m. So could you please repeat the last like 2 sentences that you had said?
No. My brain does not
Fuck.
remember it. That's gone to the ends of time.
Or when I listen to this again.
No, gone to the ends of time. But here's a cute picture
Gone to
of
the ends of
baby
time.
Saphira.
Show me baby Saphira.
Wow, that's a
Oh!
grainy ass quality.
It's 2006. What do you expect?
She is absolutely adorable as a baby dragon. Since I know we're getting towards the end of this, there are some things I want to complain about besides what I already have.
Absolutely. Nice. Go for it.
In the book, Saphira slowly grows to be a more grown size. In the movie, she's a baby dragon that slowly grows, and then Eragon, after hearing the story of the riders, is just like tossing her in the air, trying to get her to fly, and be like, "You're gonna do it. You're gonna be a big ass dragon, and you're gonna defeat the king, and blah blah blah." And then she's just a grown ass dragon. Like she just starts bursting into flames, and then she's just a grown ass dragon, and she's like, "Hello, I'm Saphira." Like she names herself, and why? Oh, why? We you could montage it. There's so many things you could have done with that. That's one complaint. Another complaint, the looks of characters aren't really the issue. So like I can complain about the Reaper, I believe. Oh, whatever. Durza. In the books, he's described as having red hair and red eyes, the color of blood, and he's an intimidating force of nature. In the movie, he's just a black-haired, starkly like blue or white eyes. And then in the end of the movie, so in the book, where Eragon finally meets the Varden and gets with them, they're in a dwarven kingdom. They're underground, but they're in like a very eloquent looking area, grand halls, etc., etc. In the movie, they're just kind of in a cave.
Nice. Budget.
Yeah, big budget, but also a lot of CGI. I think they just wanted to add Saphira to this, but you know, Aragon's fighting a lot of the Urgles or the orc type people in this cavern, and he has to separate from Saphira to go fight Durza, the Reaper. I can't remember the name of him. But he goes over to fight him 1-on-1, and then Saphira comes to save him with Arya. But it's a 1-on-1 fight that he still finishes on his own with a blade. In the movie, for some god-awful reason, they have him riding this, like, spirit, specter, sort of dragony monster thing. Let me try to find a picture of this. First, let me just throw this picture of Durza in the chat.
My brain keeps auto-correcting you to Durzo.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then he just summons this thing and he starts fighting Eragon and Saphira on it.
What in the hell is that?
Yeah, I don't know.
Was that not canon?
No. I don't...
But it would be cool though, wouldn't it?
No. We already have scary flying things that they fucking cut out when they didn't include the fucking Razak and the leather blocka.
Jakey's typing. Jakey's logged on. Jakey's stopped typing.
This I don't know. Another complaint I have is, you know, Galbatorix, the king. He's always talked about relatively, like he's always been this overwhelming, untouchable, godlike figure. They never directly talk to him. They have no scenes with him. Everything that has to do with him is in passing, or people who have like talked to him of like when his brother Morzan is Murtak is put under the king's essentially slavery. He's like, the king, he's gonna be upset or whatever. But still, we don't actually see the king until the fight with the king. And that it stuck with me because in the book series, it made him this untouchable sort of character, so mysterious that it has built him up more. But in the movie, they kind of just out the gate just show him, and he doesn't look very intimidating. He kind of just looks like a grumpy man.
He's just a guy.
He's just a grumpy dude.
From twitter.com/makeup-a-guy.
What?
Oh God. I hope listeners get my reference. It's a Twitter account where it's like makeup a guy who is supposed to be a mysterious king, but he's actually just grumpy.
So this is a picture of Galbatorix. He just kind of looks like an angry guy.
He looks like he's my best friend from middle school's dad, but I could definitely still ask for a tampon if I needed.
Yeah, he kind of looks like a grumpy friend's dad, or like an overbearing dad for like a girlfriend. And it's like, now you gonna treat my daughter with respect, right? And it's like, yes, sir.
You're just talking about my dad.
I am talking about your dad. About what?
That's just my dad. Boogie, woogie, woogie.
And fucking one of the first things of him saying to me was essentially being like, we got guns in this house, right?
Listeners at home, yes, my parents, they possessed those things, but also, I think they stopped insinuating their possession of them to my partners after they realized that I was probably gonna emotionally hurt them more than they would ever. They didn't feel the need to protect me anymore.
That's true. I can attest.
I'm trying to say this as eloquently as possible. So yeah, Dad no longer needed the shirt that said, my daughter's the last boyfriend died 17 days ago, and I buried him in the backyard, and I have an alibi. You know what I'm talking about? He didn't need those shirts. I was fine.
We're good, Pops. We're good. Yeah.
Goodness. So he definitely was not the mysterious king. He definitely was the dad who bought the shirts on Facebook that had way too much graphics and text on them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, can I take one step back and we talk about this Reaper Man for a second? The image above the shadow dragon.
Yeah.
That guy, definitely.
Shades. They're called shades. My bad.
I've met him at the Ren Fair, and he sold me peanuts.
Excuse me?
The Renaissance Fair, you know how they're like, the king's nuts, come try the king's nuts, and they sell like almonds and shit. That's who that is. But I'm saying this with ultimate respect. I know these are like professional actors who did it their best with the Eragon movie.
I completely agree with that, and I don't fault them for this, much like I don't fault Hayden Christensen for his portrayal of Anakin. He did the best that he could with the shitty script he was given, much like these actors.
They only had $1 million to do all of this, and most of that budget went to Saphira.
You want to see something
That's my
cool?
guess. Yes.
So in the last book, we have Galbatorix on his throne, and he has like Eragon, Mortag, and everyone just kind of like locked in front of him with his mastery of spells. And he's just talking shit, and there's a huge like black curtain behind him to emphasize his evilness. And then eventually he's just like, all right, well, you pissed off my dragon, you pissed off Shuriken, and like, he doesn't really like you. He doesn't really like anyone, but he doesn't like you. And then that black curtain moves, and it's just Shuriken's wing. And relatively, Shuriken is huge. And just so you can understand the scale, these blue and red dragons is Eragon and his brother's dragon, respectively.
That would, it's kind of like you're like, oh yeah, I've walked into this D&D battle encounter. This is definitely adequately leveled, and then your DM just kind of looks up from behind the screen and like rolled some dice without telling you anything.
Yeah,
that's that kind of that's that sense of I'm gonna poop my pants. That's terrifying. That's a big dragon.
It is terrifying. Essentially, what he was doing for years is he was stealing the energy of some like dragon hearts and everyone around him, and just forcing his dragon to grow to unnaturally huge sizes.
Wait, is this the king?
Yeah.
Wait, the king didn't like dragons, but he had his own dragon?
So what happened with Galbatorix, his storyline is essentially the dragon riders were fighting the Urgles, the ogre people. And during one of their fights, Galbatorix's dragon died. And he said, oh, I'm big depressed. And what happens when a dragon dies or a rider dies is because their souls are essentially intertwined with each other. They can die because it's like half their life is just getting ripped out. They can go mad, or they can essentially go catatonic. Galbatorix went mad. Essentially, after this fight where his dragon died, he fought his way through the Urgles and walked for months back to the riders' land. And he's like, hey, everybody, I'm back. My dragon's dead. Can I get a new dragon? And the council's like, no, that's not how it works. You get bonded. That mark on your hand signifies your bond with your dragon, with your dragon. You don't get another one. You get one. So what he did is a new rider that hatched this big ass black dragon behind him. Like, Shuriken had just hatched, and Galbatorix killed his rider immediately and stole his dragon.
No.
He went crazy from this, and then he completely blamed the council for his dragon dying. So he started convincing people to join his cause to turn over the riders, because they're not helping anything. They're just kind of shitty. And the first person to go was Mortak, which was Brahm's like essentially blood brother. He was the person he looked up to. So this was the biggest betrayal for Brahm, because he's worked as a young rider looking up to this guy just to have him turn on the order.
Top 10 anime betrayal.
Yeah. So he eventually got 13 total riders to turn on the order, and then they took the whole fucking thing down and even killed all of the wild dragons that were out in the world too.
No.
Yeah, he's a fucking trash bag. And then after killing all the dragons and all the riders, he just went to the center of the continent and said, hey, I'm the king now. And everyone's like, okay, we literally can't fight you, so got it.
That's upsetting.
Yeah, and that story gets revealed at the beginning of Eragon, so that's one
of the movie.
Of the the book itself. It's one of the stories that Brahm tells, one of the rare stories that he tells, and he's like, and if Galbatorix ever knew I was telling the story, he would surely have me beheaded. Essentially being like,
government secrets.
Don't narc on me to the king. I know we're not friends of him, but still.
They keep this to yourself, please.
Yeah. Apparently this book
Holy
series
shit.
was supposed to be a trilogy.
And then how many books came out?
It came out to be 4 books because he got too close to the end of book 3, and then he realized he had too much to fit into one book. And considering that book 3 and 4 are longer by a few hours compared to the first 2 books, yeah, you definitely needed that 4th book.
Mm-hmm.
But apparently the original idea for this was like 3 estranged brothers essentially have a journey. So the brothers are Eragon, his cousin who he was raised with, who's essentially his brother, which is Rorin, and then later in the book he finds Morzan, who turns out to be his brother. So it was supposed to be this whole like tie-in of these brothers going on a journey and their diverging paths and how they intermingle, blah blah blah. And I could definitely see that as like book 1 being Eragon's story and book 2 mostly being Rorin's story. And I think by the end of that, he said, Morzan's currently working for the king. I can't really show his story, so we're only going to show brief glimpses. So I feel like they do him so dirty in that respect.
Give me the third boy's journey.
I
demand the third boy's journey.
Give me Dragon Sasuke.
Dragon Sasuke.
I feel bad for him, and I feel more bad for his dragon Thorn. So Galbatorix essentially had the last 3 dragon eggs. It was Saphira's Thorn and this green dragon egg. Saphira's egg was stolen a while ago, and it finally hatches now. Morzan, when he got Mortek, whatever, his name's too close to his dad's. Dragon Sasuke, he gets captured by the king, and then Thorn the dragon hatches for him, and the king said, interesting. So I'm gonna figure out your true name and immediately enslave this newborn dragon and his rider. Yeah, so he's not above enslaving babies. He's not above killing children. Literally at the end of the book of this image that you're seeing with the big ass dragon looming over 2 smaller dragons. In this scene, after this reveal, he's like, "Come in, my sweeties," and he brings out 2 young children, a boy and a girl, like 7 and 9 or some shit. And I'm like, oh, is it gonna show like he's like kind of humane? He has kids or whatever. He's like, these are some kids, blah blah blah. So if you try to attack me again, I'ma fucking kill them. Or if you try to escape, I'ma fucking kill them. Or if you do literally anything that doesn't please me, I'm gonna kill them.
I hate that.
Yeah, so it shows his madness in that point. It's like, oh, he's fucking batshit crazy.
I usually like villains in the sense that, kind of like the baby girl of the week energy. I don't think I can baby girl the king, unfortunately.
No.
They did a good job of not making me not want to baby girl the king.
They for me, they do a good job of like, a good villain is someone that you can relate to and see their perspective. And before that, they do a good job of showing his point of view, where he's trying to convince someone to join his side. He's like, listen, I didn't start this war. You Varden started the war. I was content with just sitting in my capital, not doing anything. Listen, yes, I killed the writers, and I deeply regret that. But think about this. Since the writers came into power, nothing changed. People who were kings when the writers started, their descendants stood king. They only managed the status quo, where they were originally founded to keep peace amongst the nation. Things were stagnant, things weren't growing. And that's not how the world should be. The world should always be changing and growing and being complex. And I'm like, yeah, I get that point of view. I get that. Um, and he's like, and magic, it's the biggest issue amongst the nation. Like, if you're born with magic, you have an unfair advantage above everyone. Elves, and up to this point, it shows like people's distrust of elves because they are magical beings, so they have mastery of magic, unlike anyone else. He's like, elves, they are rule above everyone. Even normal people, if you're born with magic, you are above everyone. And I think that you should be able to carry the world just not by some magical gift that's just being put on you, but by the work you put in is how the world should work. And yeah, I get that. I kind of disagree, but I get where you're coming from. And he's like, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna like try to put a magic system into place. I found the true word of the magic system, and I'm gonna change it. That way, no one can do magic anymore, so no one has power over another. I'm like, okay, I get that. And he's like, and no one's gonna be able to do magic unless I say so, because I should be the one in charge of everything. And I'm like, oh, there it is. There's the craziness right there. So he goes from understandable villain to just crazy ass dude.
I hate it. I don't like it. That's. I mean, I'm upset because it's been nailed in the coffin now that I can't baby girl this guy. But there's just a lot of that where you could just literally like hit find and replace, and then like Microsoft Word for magic and stuff, and replace it with anything else, and it's just like this just feels like something I deal with on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. Just you can replace magic with money, essentially.
Yeah.
It's like, well, magic's the root of all evil, essentially. So like, if I control the banks and no one can spend money unless I say so, then everything will be good.
Don't like it. But I guess that makes him in a way a good villain. But still.
After he said that, and then he'll put himself in charge of it, I had the thought process of him less being delusional and more of just having a story put into place to make his plans seem more noble. He definitely has big manipulator energy, and it makes my alarm bells ring.
Yep. Holy shit.
I like this art
I am
have here. Can you put that in the chat?
Yes, I can. I'm always interested to see what artists put in or how they perceive the characters. That's not what I was trying to go for at all. Here we go. I like to see how artists draw out the characters based on their descriptions. Or like people do fan casting of characters. Like you were describing what's his face as a red-haired dude with glowing eyes and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Durza. And I was like, damn, Durza's hot as fuck according to this artist.
Awooga.
I did when we were reading what was Tony's book series called again? The Night Angels trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely loved seeing the art, but I could not shake the fact that I thought Durzo just looked like Obi-Wan Kenobi. I just saw Obi-Wan Kenobi the entire time. But we're not talking about Night Angels, we're talking about Eragon. So now that I'm on this topic though, may I take you on a brief divergent point
Sure.
to tell me who you would fan cast as Eragon, the guy?
I don't know the actor's name. He's got perpetual baby face. I can name
What is he in?
several things that he's in. He's the voice of Ferb in Phineas and Ferb. He was in the Nanny McPhee movie. I think uh he was in the Maze Runner series.
Thomas Brody
That's
Sangster?
him. I think
Oh, what a
he's
baby!
got perpetual baby face, and
This ultimate perpetual baby.
yeah. So there's a part in the book series where Aragon gets like essentially blessed by some spirits of dragons, and he becomes more elf-like. And elves are have like cute baby face and have essentially described as kind of Asian looking with like kind of slanted eyes and pointed ears and stuff. And I think that he could pull off the look of like human to like elf transition with just slight makeup stuff.
Yeah, I could see that.
So that's my fan cast pick for Aragon.
But who would be your let's see. Okay, so I'm just gonna go from one end of the spectrum to the other. So we got your Aragon fan cast. What about the Crazy King Man?
Galbatorix.
Give me someone I can baby girl, please. Or don't, but you do whatever I want. Do whatever you
I what's that actor's name? It's from Lord of the Rings.
Which one is he?
He also played like the head of House Stark in Game of Thrones.
Ned Stark?
Yeah.
Ned Stark. Hey yo. I could from how I understand it, I can see that. I don't know the actors.
Just type in Ned Stark.
Ned, I've seen a bit of I almost called it League of Legends. I've seen a little bit of Game of Thrones.
Yeah. So I've seen the first two seasons. Not my cup of tea. But I can see him playing like a villainous character because Galbatorix is described as someone who has like a speech, a way of talking that makes you want to listen, and this guy definitely has that type of voice.
One does not simply have the speech pattern for the Crazy King.
So that's my pitch for Galbatorix.
I love to see it. Do you have any other fan casting you'd like to do?
Just because I love seeing her in things. Neswata, the leader of the Varden after her dad passes away. She's described like a light-skinned kind of tribal sort of girl. And I think like Zendaya could portray that very well.
Oh yeah. I know what Zendaya looks like. I don't need to look her up.
Yeah.
But I also is that character you were talking about on this little chart?
On the little thing, yeah, Neswata. She's in the upper right-hand corner.
Okay, yeah, I can see that.
And for what's the herbalist? Aria? I can't remember. And yeah, Angela. I think the actress who plays River Song would fit her very well.
Alex Kingston?
Yes.
Hell yeah.
She's described as a curly-haired, like redheaded short woman.
Fun. All right. So I need Disney Plus to take notes.
And I don't know what to do for Najgajvog or any of the other orc-like people because they're described as like huge buff guys with horns.
Just any wrestler you please.
Not Batista because I'm fucking tired of seeing him and stuff.
I love
Not the fucking
Batista.
Rock, because he's overrated and I don't want to see him raising his fucking eyebrows at me right before he wins, because that's in his fucking contract.
Okay, what about what John Cena? What about John Cena?
John Cena is starting to look kind of raisiny, and I don't think he fits any character in the series now.
No, you
Look at a current picture of John Cena.
Yeah, a current picture of John Cena in a mini skirt. I'm not complaining. You know exactly what I want, Google. You see this? You see this?
Yeah, I get it. He looks fucking fire.
I love to see it.
But I don't see him as being anything in the series. I'm sorry.
You're valid. You know what? I'm the reason that my behavior is the reason why the original 2006 Eragon movie was the way it was.
Yeah. People like you did this.
I did this. This is all my fault.
I don't really have an edgy person in mind to play Murtagh. But it needs to be someone who can actually carry the weight of Murtagh, because he's not just like an angry person or just a whiny person. He's someone who's like mad at the world for the hand he's dealt without being complacent. And I feel like it's very difficult for actors to portray that without it sounding whiny.
I just keep picturing what's his name? The Sasuke from Jujutsu Kaisen.
I'm gonna do an out of pocket suggestion for Murtagh and just suggest the music artist Andrew WK.
I don't know who that is, but go for it.
He's the singer of that song "We Like to Party," a party, party, party. He's also the host of the short-lived Cartoon Network live-action show "Destroy, Build, Destroy."
What? He's 6'3". He dates Kat Dennings?
You lucky motherfucker.
Yeah, he gets the role. He gets it. Lewis.
Huh?
Lewis.
Me?
Do you have any remaining thoughts upon Eragon? Is there anything that sits in your gut and screams to be let out?
If you listen to that opening bit while the intro song is playing, I think that screams everything right there.
Ah! Good. And by good, I mean, are you, as long as you're satisfied, do you feel satisfied?
I feel free from the torment of holding in all this hyperfixation and only occasionally being able to let out little spurts of it to Tony when I get to see him like, okay, goodbye.
No, I feel that after the after our conversation that led to the Crashbox episode, I was absolutely going to explode. And then finally the episode happened and I slept so good. I slept so nice. It was so nice to let it all out. So I'm glad that for the second time on this podcast, you got to release that hyperfixation into the universe.
I'm free.
Free ballin'.
And next time I'm here on the show, I'll be more in my host role, which we didn't talk about in this episode, which
we touched on it in the beginning that you're the co-host. That's why I changed it from where my friends come onto my show, where it's like our friend or my friends come onto our show. I'm working on it. I'm workshopping it. But yes, you too can release that monster inside of you that wants to talk about your special interest, and Lewis will be glad to hear it.
Oh,
just sign up on the Google form.
Sign up on those Google forms. Let me hear your hyperfixation. My schedule is usually record after 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time so I can get my kids into bed.
Hashtag parenthood.
Yay! Did we do it? Was that... I felt like that went a lot better than my land episode.
I thought your land episode was fire, and I think this episode was also fire. And now I have another book in my belt of books.
No.
What?
Don't try to visit this on your own.
What?
It's just so long, Roma, and you'll fall. Your hyperfix will not carry you to the end like it carried me.
Okay. You know me.
I know you.
You know me. You know me. Okay.
But you, listener, you do it. You go listen to or read the books. You do it and enjoy this good series. Disregard those shortcomings of the first book where the author's just trying to wet his feet. And just enjoy it. He puts a lot of soul into it. Motherfucker, he doesn't forget about characters. He brings them back. Constantly keeps the world thriving and moving and feels very lived in, even before the time before the Dragon Riders. Everything feels like it's planned out. Listener, give this book a chance.
Do it. Do it now.
That was very preachy. I felt like I was preaching the word of God for a second there.
The word of dragon. Basroda. Basroda.
And then the outro song should just be the Dovahkiin song. Dovahkiin, and the copyright strike. Bethesda probably's bad about it. Who knows about that?
Yep.
Fucking Todd Howard. All right. Well, it's been fun talking about Eragon. So if you guys want to hear more from me and talk to me about stuff, you can find me at Selborsiul, Selborsiul, on Twitter, and you can just talk to me. I've been a little bit more active over there. Or you can just come to the Discord, and I'm way more active there, just trying to talk to people, greeting all the newcomers, and I'll be in this new Eragon chat talking about whatever I fucking want. Because now I'm a host.
Whatever I want, whatever I please. Do whatever I feel like in the breeze. Sorry.
And where can people find you, Rome?
You can find me on the internet at twitter.com/I appreciate your butt. That is IAPPRECI, the number 8 URBUTT. And I tweet a lot. And if Twitter dies and Twitter doesn't exist anymore, then I'll probably be on Tumblr at the same thing except spelled correctly. So you could find me there. And you can find me in this Discord. And the rest of the Hyperfix hosts will tell you all the other places to find things. Thank you to the Moonshot Network for making this podcast happen. You can find this show and many other amazing shows at twitter.com/moonshotpods.
You can also catch the network streaming on twitch.tv/Moonshot Network.
And the next on the list is plug the editor, which is me. So thanks, Kingdom, for editing it. No problem, dude. If you have a podcast you need an editor for, Attack on Kingdom, TACHYO Kingdom. It's like this is my Better Call Saul moment. Did you know you have editors? Well, the Constitution says you do.
And thank you to Offuscate for our intro and outro music. You can find them at Offuscate on Instagram, Twitter, and SoundCloud. So check out their stuff.
Also, we have a TikTok. You probably already know that, but it's just the Hyperfix Pod at TikTok. I remembered that at the end.
You can also check the Moonshots Discord. There is a sub-channel for Hyperfix, but it's far less active than this Discord devoted to just the show.
When I made this podcast, it definitely, like, I knew that they were going to give me my own little thread to be in, but there was no way that the cacophony of voices talking about so many separate things was going to manage on a singular thread.
Yeah.
And I like organizing things.
So yeah, go check out the Moonshots Discord if you want that, and then we'll force you to come over here so we can talk to you more easily, and you can talk about your specific thing that you want to talk about in nice, neat, organized pile.
These are it's a hyperfixation doom box. The whole Discord's just a doom box.
Yeah, maybe after season 3, you're gonna have to just put those different seasons into a whole separate category of like, this is volume 1.
Oh my god.
And just have a separate volume for like season 4 through 6. I don't know. I'm just shooting this shit.
You know, I do like the concept that we're officially 31 actual like topics into the show. And I know about 31 different intellectual properties. But I still feel like I know nothing.
You're gonna know so many things eventually. It'll all hit you at once.
I am going to be, you know what? When I finally go back to a party after all of this time, I'm either going to be the coolest fucking person in the room, or everyone's going to avoid me like the plague.
You go to parties?
I, you know, you're right. I'll just stay at Discord.
When I go to this Discord party,
I'm going to learn so many things and teach people so many things. But right now, it'll just be my coworker, Raven.
Cool.
Hi, Raven. All right. Be safe, everybody. Don't die. Drink your water. Take your vitamins. Get in the Discord. And don't be ashamed of being excited about something, damn it. Be excited.
Be excited.
I think that's it.
Yep.
We did it?
We did it.
All right.
Ba-doop.
Good night. Ba-doop. Wow.
Journey to distant realms. Explore the furthest reaches of the universe. Survive deadly dangers. Experience matters of the heart and more in a new actual play podcast. Join me, Audrey. That's right, just me, as I play tabletop games designed for one player. From journaling games to tarot games to even games that take me outside, I'm bringing you along for the ride. Join me for every episode of Alone at the Table.